GS3 is by far the most challenging subject. If you see the marks which have been fetched in the past 3 or 4 years, consistently students have been getting around about 80 to 90 marks. It's not just that UPSC has made the scoring tougher, it's all about the nature of the paper. The paper includes some of the subjects which are more technical. Apart from this, there are subjects which are more real world. You need to have that thorough knowledge. At the same time, you also need to have that crisp answer writing. And that is why it is most important that the preparation should be more comprehensive and more curated. And to make sure that these things are more incorporated in your answer writing, we have brought in the approach as to how to approach this GS3 paper. Hello and welcome to Lukmaan IAS. I am Kumar Shivang, faculty at Lukmaan IAS, and in this session we are joined with senior faculty and academic head Laxmikant Jaybhaye sir, and he will be guiding us as to how to approach GS3 in totality, and we have also brought in a crash course for students to make these things easier. Sir.
Hello Shivang.
Yes.
Yes, as you rightly mentioned that GS3 paper, somehow the students feel that they are more prepared, but that is not resulting into good marks in the final examination, right? And that's why students are feeling that what they are lacking in their preparation, right? And in this session, we'll try to highlight that thing, what kind of preparation they should be having, what missing points they are having in their preparation, right? But first of all, let's try to highlight the important features of this crash course, because students must be looking into, let's say, how to prepare for GS3 paper, because by far, I believe this is the paper that they were preparing by themselves.
Exactly. It is more technical. They feel that they have been preparing in their class, in their school days, so they feel that they can write answers from their background knowledge, but that is not the case.
Right, right. So this GS paper 3 module crash course is going to start on 9th June, and we are going to have total 11 classes. Let's say 11 classes, among them 4 classes will be for economy, environment classes 2, science and technology 2 classes, internal security and disaster management 3 classes. In addition to these classes, there will be even class test and full length mock test. There will be 2 full length mock tests. And every day, before every session, there will be 5 questions given to you for answer writing practice, and the faculties will immediately discuss those questions in the classroom itself, so that, let's say, your preparation is more enriched.
And so I feel that the answer would be checked in the classroom itself, I guess.
Yes, yes. So the faculties will give inputs in the classroom itself. The what you can say, instant evaluation and feedback is more, let's say, benefited to the students, rather than we can say they're waiting for evaluation for 1 week or 2 weeks. Okay, let's try to go in detail. Module wise also, we'll try to provide you the details of economy, environment section, science and technology, as well as internal security and disaster management. Yes, Shivang, why don't we talk about, first of all, the economy session?
Yes, sir. So before knowing these things, first we need to know what to be read. We need to first define the boundary. And as far as GS3 is concerned, the syllabus is more detailed.
Yes.
And it has 6 subjects. If you talk about 6 part, agroeconomy is considered to be part of economy. In the economic development part, they have been asking some of the questions from inclusive growth.
Yes.
And there is a tendency in economy that people try to only mug up things, and they only try to prepare from the prelims perspective, only going about whatsoever development has happened in the past 1.5 years. That is not the case in case of mains. Mains, you need to have that grasp over your core content. What is there in the syllabus itself? Each topic has its relevance, and you need to have that knowledge as to how to contextualize your answers when the questions come up. Similarly, in the second part, that is agroeconomy, that is bulk of the paper in the economy section of GS3. In GS3, what they have been asking, that this cropping pattern, they go and try to mix up things whatsoever development has happened right now. For example, cropping pattern and urbanization, cropping pattern, changes in cropping pattern, how the climate and environment is leading to those challenges, and how the demand and supply is also adjusting to those challenges. Similarly, There's a focus on animal rearing and animal husbandry, since a ministry has been dedicatedly created for that particular thing and it has higher value addition. So we need to make sure that our knowledge has core content, at the same time it has to have value enrichment. And if we try to do these things from our own end, it will take so much time. And there only we need to have careful guidance. In GS3, the subjects range from technicality like environment, like internal security, and real world applications like agroeconomy. We know these things, that okay, we are knowing food processing, we are knowing direct and indirect subsidies, but what are those simple things which have to be written in those answers? That is most important when we write good answers in agroeconomy.
Okay. Yes. What about the weightage for the first section and second section?
So in the past 3 or 4 years, what has been the likelihood scenario from overall economy? If we talk about agroeconomy and economic development, 100 marks have been asked.
Yes.
And of that, agroeconomic single-handedly constitutes 50 marks.
Okay, it is so scoring.
Scoring. And
Yes.
the most best part is this, that we know these things keep turning up in newspaper, and we have been reading these things from our past knowledge also. We only need to contextualize our answers in a better way.
Right. Okay, so that means preparation of economy is on bit easier side. Why? Because explicit syllabus, in detail syllabus is given, as compared to environment section or disaster management. It's simple, one word is mentioned. Right?
Exactly, sir. This is the only thing that is why I have told you that it is very important to mark these words and have that knowledge, have that thing prepared and also reflected in your answer. Going about this next part, if we talk about the next part, it is science and tech. And now you see the jump straight away from economy, it has gone into a technical subject, science and tech. And here we have this confusion that we always think that the questions would come from pure science. That is not the case. They have carefully mentioned that it's application, everyday science and technology. And that is why science and tech, if we talk about science and tech as a whole, it can be defined into 10 specific subdomains. It starts from IT. Of late, they have been incorporating electronics. Then AI and machine learning is a separate domain. Earlier, it used to be a part of IT, but they have gone and started asking deeper questions. Then comes the pet topic, that is biotechnology, nanotechnology. Then comes everyday science. And their everyday science means you need to have knowledge about class 11th and 12th. You need to have that idea about what is the physics behind this, what is the technology behind it. Like last year in 2024, they asked what is the development in toll collection, like GPS based toll collection. The question straight away came from it. And in science and tech, you need to elaborate on the technology part. Likewise, then defense, space, then pharma, as a pharma and drug. They keep on asking those novel drug, vaccination, what is the mechanism behind it. And then comes IPR. IPR is also very important as far as these technology, and we need to make sure that in science and tech, it is all about the technical aspect. Rather than more descriptive, it has to be the technology behind these when you write answers. Now,
so can we divide the overall approach for science and technology as one aspect of understanding the technology? Science and technology, and second is the application of that science knowledge and technology knowledge. Right?
Exactly, sir. This is the only thing that is the demand of the answer. If you go and see, they only say that recent development and their applications. And that is why our answers should reflect what is the vision behind these technology, how are these benefiting the mankind, and what would be the future course of action. So it should be more technical in your answer, and that is how in science and tech it is very important to put those graphs, schematic flowchart, or if you are good at artistic work, you try to make those smaller diagrams. That is very important in science and technology part.
But what about the questions like Chandrayaan 3 and what are the scientific instruments?
So that is why their schematic diagram is very important. Even if you are not knowing it, the flowchart and schema That is what UPSC tests your knowledge behind those things. If you're not knowing how that would look, it is more about the schematic representation of those, say, payloads they asked. You could have added that way, and it has to be the technology part you try to explain in your body part. That is most important in science and technology.
Okay. Okay.
Now, if I ask you, sir, what about the approach in environment?
Yeah, the way I told you that the syllabus topic for environment and disaster management it's not that explicit. It's not in detail, and somehow that also affects the preparation of students. Like you can see that in environment section, it's only 3 words: conservation, environmental degradation, and we can say that pollution, and EIA, environment impact assessment. Now, the question can directly be asked from a environment impact assessment. That is fine. But first two are very broad and we can say that generalistic topics. Conservation. Now, there are different conservation measures, be it wildlife conservation, forest conservation, or resource conservation, water conservation, soil conservation. So, different kinds of conservation, let's say measures for different kind of resources or different kinds of ecosystems is, let's say for example, mangroves. Okay, so different kinds of conservation measures or strategies have been adopted by the government. So what things are to be covered? That I am going to tell in the end. Okay, what things are to be supposed to be? It is based on PYQ analysis and our insights. What UPSC have approach in framing questions. But this makes some kind of guidance imperative for the students in their preparation.
Yes, sir, one more thing. How about the things that they are asking in prelims? Do they have any connection with the mains preparation as to how do we incorporate? Because we keep on reading many things in prelims in environment.
Sure. The common aspect, I would say that, yes, you are preparing all the conservation measures, all the government schemes and programs like Project Lion, Project Cheetah, Project Tiger, right? Along with that, like this recently there was one news talking about the Project Lion, and the lion population has increased in that Greer forest and nearby areas, and that is one more challenge also, that the increasing population is a challenge. So how government is going to deal with that? Now that is more of an analytical issue now. Okay, so if the fact is asked how many, let's say, lions are there, or what is the area, what is the forest type, or let's say vegetation type, that is prelims oriented. But the issue that is there, the challenge that is there, we have to understand, and what government steps, measures are going to be taken, that comes into the mains aspect. So same, let's say, issue is there. Same is with environment pollution. So you are reading about all the environment pollution. In prelims, they will ask about the pollutants, their characteristics, the sources, and their effects on, let's say, human health and let's say, environment. But here, what they will ask is what government measures, like they will ask national, let's say, climate, NCAP program that is there, okay, for atmospheric pollutants. Okay, so that 2019 program, twice they asked, if you see the PYQs. So that is basically government action oriented. They will ask about what are the international measures being taken, like they will ask about Kyoto Protocol, already they have asked, or Gothenburg Protocol. So that means that is more of a solution oriented. So we have to understand what are all environmental issues, also what measures are being taken at national and international level to deal with those environmental issues.
So basically these are just we can say broader knowledge. We need to decipher what is being asked through PYQ analysis, as well as certain R contents from our end.
Yes. And for that we need some kind of guidance. That's why I was telling that this crash course is going to help a lot to students, because we will chart out some kind of, let's say, important topics. We are going to provide one-page notes for all the students on those issues, and that these notes are going to be very handy for the final revision. Same is with disaster management. If you see, the disaster management syllabus is basically simply the disaster and disaster management. This is the syllabus. Now from this we understand one thing, that they are going to ask about the disaster, like last year question, cloud burst and its mechanism. Okay, or it has been repeated again and again. Urban floods question last year. So in past also they have asked question on urban floods in Pune and Hyderabad. So that means disaster related question, they are going to ask about the causes, mechanism, or we can say consequences, impact. But second part is disaster management. So that means second part of the question is also expected, how we are going to manage that disaster, or what are the NDMA guidelines. This has been direct question. Second part of the question is framed like that. So from PYQ analysis and the trend, we need to understand what type of question they will ask.
So one question is that there is linkages between environment and disaster management. As to first part, there are students get confused whether the question came from environment or was it the question of disaster.
Right.
So how should be the answer in disaster management, keeping in mind that that could be some of the portions, the knowledge should come from environment.
Let me give you an example. The question on oil spills. I guess last year or last to last year, there was one question on oil spills. Now, it is an environmental hazard also, and it is a kind of disaster also. Okay, environmental hazard also, and this is the environmental issue also, and we can say disaster also. And that's why you need to know about the environmental issue, the causes, and environmental aspects. At the same time, the disaster management, it will include the institutional measures that are put in place to deal with that kind of disaster. Now that becomes the disaster management part.
Oh.
Right. Yes. And the next part is the last part, internal security syllabus aspect. Okay. So it is more of a explicit syllabus, detailed syllabus, the way it is there in economy. And if you see the PYQs, there is even repeated aspect of asking question from this topic. Every alternate year, there will be question on Naxalism. Almost every year, there will be one question on terrorism. And recently, if you see the Operation Sindoor, the Pahalgam attack, there is full of fodder to ask question from the internal security aspect. That students are expected to follow each and every details of those developments.
Sir, one more thing, just this internal security. So there are challenges. It has certain, you can say, overlap with international relations. So because the answer comes from these things. So should we add those concepts? Should we add those things in our answer sort of while writing those internal security part, concepts of international relations?
Yes. See, the overlapping part, let me tell you that especially India and its neighborhood relations. Because the external security of India is linked to internal security of India. Let me tell you, today itself in the foundation batch, I was explaining to the students while teaching internal security aspect, how external security challenges affects the internal security of India. For example, if you see the external state and non-state actors like Pakistan and Pakistan-based terrorist groups, how they are basically promoting infiltration into India. So somehow that external security across the border, it is going to affect the internal security. Or India-Pakistan relations, India-China relations, India-Bangladesh, Sri Lanka relations, somehow they are having internal security challenges as a common, let's say, point of conflict, or we can say that the challenge between these two nations. Okay, that's why we can say that IR is also linked to internal security. Yes, of course, they can take inputs and prepare, we can say, those overlapping aspect in this manner.
Oh.
Right.
So then we'll talk about
the overall weightage. Okay, if you see the paper 3, if we talk about the overall percentage of weightage, yes, as you said that economy is having the major weightage here. Out of 250, 100 marks.
economy.
Since 2017, if I remember, it has been the constant weightage for economy, 100 marks, and internal security, 50 marks. Economy, 4 question, 10 marks, 4 question, 15 marks. Internal security, 2 10 markers, 2 15 markers.
Oh, that is why it is reflected here only. So 20%, roughly 20% comes from these three.
Yes.
These constitute roughly 60% of the total syllabus, total paper.
Yes, and accordingly they can focus in their preparation also. As we told, no, the detailed syllabus is given for this. So they should make such kind of notes or take some benefits from the coachings also. They are providing you, like we are going to provide such kind of notes to students. They are going to be very helpful. If you see the science and tech, environment and disaster management, combinedly the remaining 100 marks, they are going to, change the weightage. If you see the PYQ analysis, from that you will get the idea that sometimes they will give more weightage to environment section, sometimes they will give more weightage to science and tech. But less weightage is there for disaster management. They will ask 1 or 2 questions related to disaster management.
So I guess, sir, in this section, we need to have certain guidance because it's plethora of material that is available. We do not know what to limit ourselves. So here I guess guidance is very important for that 40% of the syllabus because it is not explicitly mentioned.
Yes. It is not explicitly mentioned also. And every year UPSC is asking new areas or it is touching new, we can say, horizons in these areas. If you see, these are the traditional questions like terrorism, or we can say that in economy also they will ask subsidies or National Food Security Act. But these are the areas, like they will ask sometimes the dam failures, or sometimes they will ask in science and technology very specific technology, the way I ask you to Chandrayaan mission, or in environment section also they will ask photochemical smog or something like that. So one or two questions are like literally unattemptable by all of the students. So how to deal with these kinds of questions? It is, let's say, very important here.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Now, if we go about and see how has been the trend in economy, so we have this notion that, okay, if we prepare last 1.5 years and will be sufficient as far as economy syllabus is concerned. But that is opposite in the case of mains examination.
Yes.
Mains examination, the conventional core knowledge, they have gone as basic and asked as basic question, what is the difference between a revenue budget and a capital budget? People have been preparing about the FRBM Act, fiscal consolidation. They have been asking about debt levels and all these things, and they get confused when these basic questions turn up. And that is the beauty of UPSC. When it comes to polity and when it comes to economy, they just go back to the basics and ask those questions where students try to skip these things in a notion that they know these knowledge, and there they falter on most of the basic questions. Then comes the contemporary. Now UPSC has not just said that, okay, we'll be asking 1 or 2 years of current affairs on the current development. It goes to as back as 5 to 7 years. So you need to have that knowledge about what has been the developmental aspects, because the syllabus itself says economic development. It is not like economy or microeconomics. It's all about development. So you need to have that horizon and that longitudinal analysis as far as the developmental aspects of economy. And the current aspects, they have less weightage, although in prelims they keep on asking some of these development, but in mains they hardly ask 1 or 2 questions, but it may get changed. So that is why we need to have a thorough preparation on the economy aspects.
Yes, this is good analysis, Shivang.
And when it comes to the science and tech, the science and tech part, they ask most of the questions of the last 5 years development. Just I give you may feel that, okay, a satellite got launched in this year, they may not ask it. And they can ask a question about whatsoever development that took place in 2021. So it is more about the contemporary development. For example, the defense. So defense engagement does not mean that the last 1 year whatsoever has been the development. They can ask about the missile system. They can go and ask about the radar system. And that is why contemporary development, the development as to somewhere or the other, that particular missile or that particular equipment could have been used in recent times. And that is how UPSC tries to figure out as to how to trap students as far as the technological aspects of that questions are concerned. Then in current year, they'll try to mostly ask about the everyday development. The everyday science, when they say, they try to capture whatsoever has been the development in the last 1 year, and that makes the base. And that is why if I say in the science topic, don't try to delve too much in the pure science concept as to what to read in physics, chemistry and biology, because there the weightage is quite less as far as mains preparation in science and tech part is concerned.
Okay.
Now, talking about how to write and how to prepare for economy. Now, if we say what constitute a good answer, every question would have a concept, a core content. If a PDS or a contextual question related to PDS is being asked, you need to first know what is PDS, and your introduction should be more explicit about what is the meaning of PDS rather than just talking about here and there. Then in the body part, the drivers, significance, challenges, pros and cons, you should be knowing these things as far as economy is concerned. And then comes the way forward. And the way forward should be realistic. What realistic? It should have been suggested by certain reports, certain committee reports, or should have been floating in the public domain. You should not come out with innovative ideas like, for example, India should start doing these things which is beyond the scope of Indian economy. You should be more realistic in your answer writing. And then comes the value enrichment part. And there the role of schemes is very important. Data. You need to argue your points with data as to if India's economy is moving up or India's purchasing power is going down. You need to say that our inflation rate year on year has been rising at a faster rate. That is how you try to contextualize and try to input those data, because we keep on cramming data, but when it comes to putting those things in your answer, it is that thing that is very important. And then comes the policies and acts, so as to make your answer more comprehensive and more complete. So if you say the core content is economic concept, and most important thing is use of economic terms in answer writing. We keep on adding GDP, inflation, unemployment, labor force participation rate, but we need to put these things, our answer writing, to separate out from what is a good answer in economy and what is a more generalized answer in economy. And there the role of PYQs come into picture, because in economy things keep on repeating. India is a developing economy, and our developmental issues would not get vanished, say, in the next 10-15 years. So we need to have that developmental things when we incorporate those things in our answer writing. Similarly, in the science tech part, if I say science tech, again the conceptual part comes into picture, and there the answer should come from the technological aspects. What is the technology behind that? That is more important as to how to introduce the answer. Then elaboration of the technology, like the sir said that, how about the Chandrayaan, the payloads that they asked. We need to know about what is the role of spectrometer, what is the role of lander, rover, what they do, and what is the analysis behind it. That should be incorporated in your answer writing. And then the conclusion aspect should be benefits for mankind. It should be more visionary in your conclusion as to why we are doing these things, why we are investing on defense, why we are investing more on space science. We need to link these things about the evolution of mankind.
Don't you think this is the difference makers that most of the students are missing?
Exactly, sir. That is why what they in the age of chat GPT, what they do, if they put these questions, they just come out with a generalized answer. And there the essence about what is technology and science and technology and what is more generalized answer, they miss that particular gap. And that is very important when you write good answers. And that is why I told you in value enrichment part, like in economy, you argue with data. In science and tech, you argue with diagrams and schematic charts. That is the only way to enrich your answer. And the ingredients, if we talk about, it has to be last 5 years and last 2 years of development, and also core content. You should have ready-made material on your core content. As to when it comes to biotechnology, we need to know about what is biotechnology, what are the different domains, and what are the recent development that has taken place. That sums up how to approach the main part of science and tech.
Yes, the remaining part, environment, internal security and disaster management. So if you see about the environment, so I was telling you that the syllabus is very, we can say, brief, and that's why in general, if you see the PYQs, what they are asking is they are touching into the new or emerging environmental issues. Okay, so environmental issues, the way I have given example of oil spills is there, or the questions related to mangroves ecosystem. So critical and vulnerable ecosystems they will try to ask, be it coral reefs, coral ecosystem, mangroves ecosystem. So they are very vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? The changes in the climate or in general global warming and its impact. And they are also very important in terms of ecological health, and somehow in turn it will impact human beings. That's why they are very important, critical. If we talk about the all environmental issues, the common environmental issues that you read in the prelims also, like environmental pollution is there, air pollution, water pollution, or in general, let's say issues like desertification is there, or the water depletion of water resources is there, or renewable energy. So all these environmental issues, or let's say topics that are in news, in general awareness about all of them is required, because they are going to ask either, yes, of course topics are repeated, right? They have repeated renewable energy, once they ask solar energy, again they ask the wind energy potential in India, right? So yes, for such kind of topics students are prepared with data, facts, government initiatives, but the emerging issues or the new challenges that they may ask, so that's why general awareness should be there about that. The common aspect is climate change. They have been asking about the outcomes of COP. Okay, so Conference of Parties of UNFCCC. Very standard question. Like they asked in 2021 that year's COP outcome.
So do we need to prepare COP in details every year?
If the important outcome is there for that year, Because in 2021, there were several important outcomes, and that's why they asked the question, like one sun, one earth, one grid. So that was the question that time. So it was the outcome of that particular, let's say, COP. And whatever the important initiatives that India take at such international forums, so that becomes again important. That's why I have said here, developments at national and international level. So climate change actions, like the question was asked on Kyoto Protocol, and that was kind of bouncer. Student prepare for prelims, Kyoto Protocol, and that is 1997 development, right? So that means the major developments in terms of human actions to deal with climate change. So we expect question on Paris Summit, of course, Paris Agreement. It is pending question. We can say that. Now, major environmental hazards, like for example, just now we discussed oil spills. Second environmental hazard is forest fire. If you take the example, okay, so forest fire is a kind of environmental hazard. Students prepare that from disaster management perspective. What is the impact on environment of forest fires? If suppose such kind of question is asked, then the less content is available with student, and that requires brainstorming and, let's say, skill to interlinkage all the topics of GS3 paper. I would say all topics of GS3 somehow they are applied, they are linked to day-to-day life and economic and social, technological aspects, internal security, all things are linked. One example let me give you for even internal security aspect after this. So yes, renewable energy, clean technology is a common aspect, like overlapping aspect. Last to last year question related to EVs. So
in 2023,
whether it was science and tech question or environment related question, students were confused, right? So this is how, let's say, we should be prepared. Overlapping aspect is there, and the conservation efforts of government and non-governmental organizations, that is a common that you prepare for prelims also as well as mains also. Okay, so what should be the approach for mains for environment section? Yes, clear understanding of all the ecological concepts that of course you prepare for prelims also, and along with that climate change related concepts. Yes, what do you mean by carbon credits? So carbon market mechanism. It's a kind of important concepts in climate change terminologies or glossary. So be prepared with that. We should have, of course, small notes for all important environmental issues. Okay, and that is going to be very handy notes. Then government major initiatives, yes, be it Project Tiger, a trending topic is Project Cheetah. Now almost 2-3 years has gone, and now there is also criticism and substantial, let's say, government itself report has, let's say, released related to Project Cheetah. So UPSC is unpredictable. Predict the unpredictable aspect is always there with UPSC. So students have been preparing Project Cheetah for 2 years. Now students must be thinking, now they are not going to ask. Suddenly UPSC will ask this. Okay, then be updated with the current developments in all these fields, like green hydrogen, green ammonia, green hydrogen. They asked in prelims, 2023 prelims. Now we are expecting question in mains also. The way they ask question on global air pollution standards released by WHO, updated by WHO. First it was asked in mains examination, next year immediately they asked in prelims. In 2023 mains they asked, in 2024 prelims they asked question. That means topics they are choosing, right? The common topics. EVs is the burning topic, biofuels is also emerging topic that government is investing in. Biofuels, different, let's say, generations of biofuels, what are the government schemes. Okay, so be prepared with all these topics. This should be the approach. I was telling about the internal security and the overlapping aspect and defense technology. Let's talk about defense technology. It is part of science and tech. But defense technology is overlapping with your, of course, internal security part. So during Operation Sindoor, whatever kind of, let's say, defense technology was used, it is part of internal security also. Right. So we should be prepared, like drone technology is there, unmanned air vehicles are there. Already in PYQ they have asked question on drone use of drones and let's say preparation related to how we can deal with such kind of drone attacks. So yes, science and tech environment overlapping, science and tech internal security overlapping. Okay, so this aspect. Now, when we are talking about the internal security, yes, you should be having exact knowledge about all the security challenges, their root causes, what are their implications, let's say multi-dimensional implications. And what is the multi-layered strategy that government has adopted at government level, at developmental level, at security agencies level. So this is very important.
So that is, sir, I guess that administrative functionaries are very important as far as answer writing in internal security is also concerned.
Yes.
Not just the part, the core issue, but also the administrative mechanism
Yes.
behind these things.
Yes. So basically, yes, how it works out. Okay. So, and what government is doing to deal with those challenges, and as the challenges still persist, that means something lacking in the government approach. So, what steps are required further? And to recommend that, you need some kind of expert guidance, or we can say that in terms of faculties also, or I would say if you do it by yourself, you need to refer to ARC second report or the expert committee reports. So that becomes very time consuming for all of you. So you need to rely on for next 2 months at least for certain kinds of guidance in terms of study material and classroom, we can say that knowledge. So yes, internal security also requires right kinds of data, examples, references to the expert recommendations. And along with that, you should be like the way I have mentioned here, Madhukar Gupta Committee for Border Management, ARC second report for combating terrorism, protecting by righteousness. This is ARC second report. A very detailed, we can say that explanation about all these issues. But right now, it is not the time to read these detailed reports.
Quite
right?
humongous.
Yes, yes. Then along with that, the recent developments, if you mention any question is asked and if you mention in introduction itself, the recent development, it is more effective. Okay, so if you are writing about militancy in Jammu Kashmir and if you mention the recent Pahalgam attack in Jammu and Kashmir, so that becomes more, let's say, effective. The examiner gets idea that, okay, you are aware about the recent developments related to that particular challenge. Okay, then interlinkages among all security challenges. This is the new aspect that we teach in the classroom. So it's only mentioned that in linkages of organized crime with the terrorism. This is the syllabus topic, but basically organized crimes are so many crimes. So are we able to link among themselves with the terrorism or any other challenge that we are facing, be it insurgency in North India, Naxalism. So that is a kind of brainstorming is needed, and we are going to do that in the classroom, right? And finally, let's say the approach. Yes, approach for internal security. You should be ready with the current updates with respect to security challenges and deep understanding of security causes. Just now I have mentioned all these things. And the emerging challenges I was telling, okay, so cyber crimes, every year UPSC will ask one question on cyber crimes or cyber warfare or something like that, right? Or every year terrorism related question will be there, and this is the emerging aspect, use of drones. So this year also the way Operation Sindoor was, let's say, carried out, we are expecting question on technology.
So basically, sir, you are saying technologies in cyber crimes and drone, we need to have that interlinkages with the science and tech part also.
Yes, yes, of course. That's what I was telling here. Okay, so science and tech, internal security or environment and science and tech, they are linked to each other. Okay, and they should be prepared with the overlapping aspect. And finally, of course, the short notes and answer writing that we are going to have, provide the short notes and answer writing on daily basis in this module. That is going to help the students. Now, disaster management. The standard questions that UPSC asks, the first part of question is always asking about the mechanism of disaster or vulnerability of India for that particular disaster. Always. And second part of the question is generally related to what government measures are there, what are NDMA guidelines are there, and what further steps are required to be taken. If the students understand this thing, they will prepare very good notes for all those disasters and their management in these lines, because question framing are basically on the similar line. Okay, similar line. So that's why references to NDMA guidelines should be there, or ARC second report, crisis management. It is about disaster only, and successful case studies of community-led disaster management. This is innovative aspect. The way you earlier mentioned, the realistic measures or solutions should be there, pragmatic solutions should be there. So in internal security and disaster management also, there should be some pragmatic solutions and measures in your answers. That makes answer a little bit more realistic and different. Otherwise, the recommendations are always there and all these things are always there to write by the students, right? Finally, the approach for disaster management. Yes, you should have the common notes for geography and disaster management. This is what we tell students, because in geography also you have the natural hazards preparation. So yes, causes, mechanism, same thing is there. Just additional aspect will be man-made disasters in disaster management. Otherwise, the common aspects are there. So don't have the duplicity of efforts here. This should be the approach, and prepare short notes for all those disasters. Also, be updated with the recent example, because they are explicitly asking the recent examples. They asked about the recent 2 examples of dam failures. They asked the recent examples of urban floods, recent examples of cloudburst mechanism in last 1 decade. This is how they are explicitly asking.
So, sir, I guess, sir, here we need that expert guidance, because it is very difficult to have that gauge about the things which has happened, say, 10 years back. Because we keep on reading things which are, say, 1 year back only.
Yes.
So when it comes to good community level participation or any example from the world, we need that stuff to write those answers.
Yes, that we are going to provide in the classroom, and those short notes actually.
Oh.
Yes. And finally, the same thing, we need to provide effective solution to manage these disasters, and successful case studies also. For example, let me tell you the cyclone management. So why Odisha state is more successful in dealing with the cyclone as compared to West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh? This is very good case study. Why? Because on 2 fronts it has effectively worked. One is the capacity building of coastal community. Okay, the villagers are trained to deal with the cyclone, and second is cyclone disaster. And second thing is that their effective dissemination of information related to early warning. And that is basically helping the people of coastal Odisha, the efficient mobilization of people, rescue and relief operations, and it has reduced the loss of life and property to very significant level as compared to other states. If you know this difference, you will write an answer as a case study. Also, some of the coastal villages of Odisha has received the tsunami ready village tag.
So these are the value enrichment, because these are the terms which are required to be put at the right point in the answer.
Yes, and then only that half mark extra, 1 mark extra, then cumulative effect in the final marks. This is how, because 5 subjects are there, and you need 5, let's say, domain knowledge keywords from 5 subjects. And that is a kind of, we can say, exhausting, and that's why if you let's say have some short notes, value added material and brainstorming in the classroom, that is going to help you a lot. And yes, finally again let me repeat few things, that we are starting this module on the 9th of June, and we are going to provide all the help that is needed to improve your score in GS3 paper. And I would say that you should target 100 plus. You should challenge UPSC. Let's say I'm over ambitious here, but still you can achieve this target, and you should target for 100 plus in GS3 paper. Let us help you for that. Thank you.